Now that you've landed your first job and saved some money, you're ready to get out of your parents' basement and get your very own apartment. You'll finally feel like a fully grown adult. Despite knowing the monthly rent will be a big pill to swallow, you're ready to take the plunge. But you're also wondering what other costs you might have to pay for that you haven't even thought of yet. We're covering the true cost of renting an apartment. This is Renter Confidential. The advertised rent price for any given apartment is just the beginning of the costs associated with having your own place. It's important to factor in all the additional expenses that come with living in a rented space. Here are some costs that are often overlooked by first-time renters. We'll start with the costs you'll need to pay before you even get into the apartment. The application fee will be the first cost you'll run into. This is a fee charged to cover the cost of reviewing your application and gathering documentation from third parties to verify your application information. Typically, this will also cover a credit check as well as a background check. While some states don't allow application fees, the vast majority do. On average, this fee can range from $30 to $40. However, if you're looking for a rental in the swanky area of town, it can run as high as $200. But this is not just a one-time cost. You'll need to pay an application fee with every property management company or landlord that you apply with, so these fees can add up to a sizable amount. Once you've found a suitable apartment and are ready to sign the lease, you'll need to pay for the first month's rent and the security deposit. You are ready for the rent part, but the security deposit is a sum of money you pay up front to cover any potential damages to the apartment during your tenancy. It also will count against any money owed to the landlord at the end of your rental period, should you have a balance remaining. It is usually equal to 1 month's rent. If there's no damage and you don't owe any money, the deposit should be returned to you at the end of your lease. As a newly minted renter, you'll also need to sign up for utilities. These are services like electricity, water, gas, internet, and cable that you may need to pay for separately from your rent. Depending on the property where you rent, some utilities may be payable to the landlord and not directly to the utility company. That's because these utilities might be on one meter or utilities used for common areas. Common area utilities would include lighting for the parking lot and walkways, as well as gas if the property has a central boiler to create hot water. You may also be paying the landlord directly for water, as it's one of the more difficult utilities to provide separate meters for. When you pay the landlord for utilities, the entire bill for the property is divided among all the occupied apartments on the property. One property management company I worked for had a formula where they divided up the bill based on the size of the apartment and the number of people living in it. This means that you'd be paying a utility bill even if you were out of town for the entire month. It also meant that you keeping your utility usage down had very little effect on your utility bill because the benefit of your conservation efforts was spread across the entire property. Moreover, the fewer apartments that were rented, the higher your utility bill actually was. When you pay the utility directly, you'll likely be required to pay utility activation fees or a deposit in order to have your services turned on. So you'll need these funds up front or your apartment will just be a dark, empty box. And you'll need a deposit for each utility company involved. If the gas company, water company, and electric company are separate, you'll need a deposit for each of them. In addition, utility costs can vary greatly depending on the season, so it's important to budget for them accordingly. This is where having an emergency fund comes in handy for a little extra backup. We'll take a quick break here for our sponsor, Rental Secrets. This book has helped people save hundreds on their rent. The link is in the show notes below, and here's the trailer for this powerful book. America is in the grip of a housing crisis. There's evidence of it in nearly every city. 50% of U.S. households are having difficulty paying rent. And prices? Well, prices are on the rise. Frustration has set in for those trying to make ends meet, and searching for a new place can be a daunting task. It can seem overwhelming. People believe that landlords have all the power. After all, they have what you need. But it isn't true. Yes, you heard correctly. It is not true. You have more power than you think. Inside the new book, Rental Secrets, you'll learn how to reduce your rent. Just imagine having a lower rent payment. Get better value for your money. Paying rent is a struggle. Shouldn't you get more out of each payment? How to negotiate with the right people. Who has the real power to negotiate? Take control of rent renewal conversations. After all, it's your money. And even how to get free rent. Yes, it is absolutely true. Free rent is real, and you can get it. All this and so much more is in Rental Secrets. Get your copy today at Amazon.com. And we're back. But there is some good news. First, these deposits are most likely refundable when you eventually move out. So if utilities are currently in your name, then you may just need to change the service address, or you'll receive your old deposit back to cover the new one. Second, if you're moving from a situation where you paid the utility directly to one where you'll be paying the landlord, your refunded utility deposit can be used to offset these other costs involved in moving. In addition, depending on your current credit score, some utilities waive the entire deposit. This policy varies from company to company, so you'll have to check with your local service provider. Most rental properties will require you to have renter's insurance. This is a type of insurance that protects your personal belongings in case of theft, damage, or other unforeseen events. It also covers the building should you cause major damage as a result of an accident. It's relatively inexpensive, but can provide valuable coverage that protects both you and your landlord financially. If you have a car, you may need to pay for a parking space at your apartment complex or in a nearby garage. Parking fees can add up quickly, so it's essential to include this cost in your budget. Depending on what city you're in, you may also be required to purchase a parking permit to park on the street in your neighborhood. Neighborhoods near nightlife or tourist attractions typically do this to reserve street parking for the residents of the neighborhood and protect it from out-of-town visitors. In fact, we have an episode on parking from season 1. That link is in the show notes below. When you sign your lease, you may also be signing up for additional monthly fees. These fees might be for trash removal, landscaping, or other amenities such as a pool or a gym. These fees definitely vary depending on the property, so make sure to inquire about them before signing a lease. Season 1 also features an episode on rental fees, so be sure to check out that link as well. Some of the costs involved have nothing to do with your landlord at all. Somehow you'll have to get all your stuff from your parents' basement to your new rental. And even if none of that stuff in the basement was yours, you'll have to acquire some furniture and figure out how to get it to your new apartment. Delivery charges may be extra. Whether you're using a moving service or the Buddy Pizza and Beer plan, this should be factored into your rental budget to make the transition less stressful. Not including all these costs in your rental plan can be dangerous because it can lead to financial strain and unexpected expenses. This strain could result in eviction, which has long-term ramifications for your credit, or even worse, having to ask your parents for help. But by accounting for all potential costs up front, you can make a more informed decision about whether a particular rental fits within your budget. Certain apartments that looked really good at first glance may not look so good after taking into account all the costs involved. It's essential to be proactive in understanding and budgeting for all the costs involved in renting an apartment to avoid any financial surprises down the line. Thanks for watching Renter Confidential. Happy apartment hunting. And remember, when it comes to renting, insider information is the best roommate you could ever have.